Hello, everyone. Again, this is Jim Keller, President of the American College of Clinical Engineering, and I'd like to welcome you all to our first membership webinar. And you will be listening to this program via the live meeting link that you were provided from the American College of Clinical Engineering. And we will be going over the agenda in a moment. But you will see that there's a Q&A feature on the live meeting site, and that will provide an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end of the presentation part of our program. I would like to remind everyone that this program is being recorded, and the program will be loaded up, the recorded program will be loaded up on ACCE's website. So here's a copy of the agenda for what we're going to be doing today. You'll hear some opening comments from me, Jim Keller, as President of the American College of Clinical Engineering, and then we'll be having discussions from some of the key committees that ACCE has that will include the Education Committee, the International Committee, our Advocacy Committee, and our Membership Committee. And at the end of the formal parts of the presentations for the program, we'll have a Q&A session. But before we get to that, we have a couple of members who will be providing their perspectives on the American College of Clinical Engineering. One is a longtime member of ACCE and a past president of our organization, and another is a relatively newer member of ACCE. So looking forward to today's program, and we are very interested in commentary and perspectives that we get today from the attendees on today's program. And I'd like to formally welcome everyone to this in the first of two membership webinars that we'll be hosting by the American College of Clinical Engineering. And for those of you who regularly attend the annual meetings at ACCE and HIMSS, you'll know that we do host a membership meeting and or reception at those conferences. And when I took over as president of ACCE, I thought that those programs are really nice, but they're limited in that only a small number of our constituency of the ACCE membership has a chance to interact in a formal way through those receptions. And we decided to give the webinar concept a try to see if we can have an additional way for ACCE membership to connect with one another and with the ACCE leadership. And we also opened up this webinar to individuals who are not necessarily members of ACCE who might be interested in learning more about our organization. So the purpose of this webinar and the one that we'll be doing in the fall is to promote better connectivity and engagement with our membership. And as I mentioned, it's also providing an opportunity for us to learn a little bit more for people who aren't familiar with ACCE or clinical engineering, to learn a little bit more about our organization and the profession. I've got a polling question that I'm actually going to hold off on until later in the program because I see that people are still starting to log in. But this is what we're wanting to understand. Of the people that are online, how many of them are members of ACCE and how many of them actually don't know they're members, which I suspect should be quite a small number. So starting off with my part of the program, which is the formal president's perspective, I'd just like to say that I think it's a great time to be a clinical engineer. Most of you should be familiar with the CNN Money Top 100 job rankings and the 10-year projected growth rate for clinical engineering. If you're not familiar with that, going back a number of months ago, at towards the end of 2012, CNN Money posted its list of top 100 jobs, and the number one job on its listing was biomedical engineer. And that was pretty exciting. I have a biomedical engineering degree from the University of Connecticut, but that job was more specific to the designer of medical devices and not to the typical role that a clinical engineer performs. And in scanning through the list pretty carefully, I wasn't expecting to see something related to clinical engineering, but was pleasantly surprised to see clinical engineer pop up on the list at number 54. So according to CNN Money, a clinical engineer is number 54 on the top 100 list of jobs in America. That's in the whole country. And that's really impressive. The day after that top 100 ranking came out, CNN Money listed its top 10 fastest growing jobs in America, and I was really amazed to see that according to CNN Money, the projection was that clinical engineer was number 2 on the list. That's based on a 10-year projected growth rate for our profession. So it's a really tremendous time for us to be in clinical engineering, and I see our responsibility as the American College of Clinical Engineering and as professionals in clinical engineering to make sure that that projected growth rate actually happens, because I believe that that is something that would be good for the profession and overall extremely good for our healthcare organizations and in particular the patients that we serve. So it's our responsibility as a profession to make sure that job rating and the growth projection comes true. And we'll just make sure that this is shut down, please. And that in order for that to happen, clinical engineers need to be the organization's healthcare technology leaders. That is, if we're working in a hospital, supporting clinical technology as a clinical engineer, we need to be the leaders in that area, and that we have to have strong buy-in from our executive level leadership in order to do that. So I wanted to comment a little bit about clinical engineering and its roles and responsibilities, and just touch briefly on some of the key initiatives that I think clinical engineering folks should have on their radar screen or on their to-do list. And I'll touch a little bit on the American College of Clinical Engineering and some of the things that we're involved with, but I'll leave most of the detail for that to the committee chairs who will be presenting. And then I'll provide you with a little bit of a pep talk on what I think we need to do together to help make some of this all come together for us. But I'd like to refer to a blog that I wrote for ECRI Institute, the organization that I work for, that talked about how clinical engineering has traditionally been thought of as, in my view, an unsung hero in the hospital. They're the individuals who kind of come in during the clutch moments and will help out as needed, but aren't necessarily seen as the leaders within the healthcare organizations that they work for. And I'm going to just read a little bit from that blog that I wrote to provide my personal perspectives on where clinical engineering needs to be within the healthcare organization. So if you are the lead biomedical or clinical engineering professional in your hospital, take a look at the role you provide with your technology planning and management efforts. Do you serve as an advisor who helps out when tricky issues or problems come up, like in an unsung hero role, or are you a leader who sets direction, the one who everyone in your planning meetings turns to when it's time to discuss the next steps? If you're not in this latter category, which I would call the most valuable player category, then consider ways to put yourself in a position to be one. That's really where we need to go as a clinical engineering profession. So that means network with your hospital's executives, provide them with critical information on technology decision-making, and volunteer to lead or help lead projects. And if you don't do that, someone else will. Thinking about the hospital executives, and this is what we should help them do, have them look at who's leading the technology product or projects, And they should be asked if those people have a deep understanding of the clinical safety, and cost issues surrounding those technologies. And do those individuals have the ability to drive the adoption of technologies that are consistent with a hospital's strategic plan? And can they manage the confusing minefield of vendor claims and the challenges of integrating multiple devices and systems? This is the kind of functionality and support that I believe the clinical engineering profession needs to provide to their healthcare executives. Some of the key initiatives that clinical engineering should be involved with are patient monitor and infusion pump integration with the electronic health record, implementation of newer technologies and enterprise-wide technologies like real-time location systems, being a lead person on alarm safety in your hospital. Most of you know that the Joint Commission is paying very close attention to alarm safety and is likely to have a national patient safety goal with some pretty specific requirements around alarm safety. Clinical engineering should be the lead in those projects along with nursing. And in order for that to happen, a collaboration needs to take place with strong relationships with the chief information officer in the hospital, nursing leadership, the chief medical officer, the chief medical information officer, the head of the supply chain, head of risk management, and other executive-level leadership. So ACCE sees its role, from my point of view at least, in helping clinical engineering profession do the kinds of things that I was just talking about, to become that go-to person for the life cycle management of the healthcare technology across the entire enterprise. And I'm noticing that the polling question is popping up on the slide set. And please leave that polling question alone for the moment. We'll get to that in a minute. Thank you very much. And but ACCE needs to be supportive of the clinical engineering profession, and our mission really shows how we intend to do that. It's to establish a standard of competence and promote excellence in clinical engineering practice. It's to promote safe and effective application of science and technology in patient care, to define the body of knowledge on which the profession is based, and to represent the professional interests of clinical engineers. So today's program is going to be talking about how we're going to be doing this. One example is the upcoming symposium that we're leading, and Alir Kaluli was going to talk about this through his work with the Education Committee. But ACCE is running the symposium for clinical engineering on the first morning of the ACCE conference coming up. And we can't do the kind of advocacy work that I was describing on our own. We need the support of our membership and other organizations out there like ACCE, the Association for Advancement of Medical Instrumentation, HIMSS, IHE, the Healthcare Technology Foundation, the organization that I work for, ECRI Institute, and other organizations like ACCE. And we've been collaborating or talking about collaborating with these outside organizations on a number of topics, but examples include clinical engineering certification, working out the details of connectivity from patient care devices through IHE, and addressing the CMS directive on preventive maintenance. We're also talking about possible future collaborations with organizations like the College of Healthcare Information Management Executives. So there's a lot of exciting things going on within ACCE, and we're about to hear more of the details about that from our various committee chairs. So before I go on to the next section of the program, I'd just like to point out one more thing, and that is we were featured in the 24/7 magazine. And if you haven't had a chance to look at it, the April 2013 issue on page 38 has a nice article about the American College of Clinical Engineering and some of the activities that we're working on. And I had the pleasure of being interviewed for the article along with Alir and Tom Judd. So please take a look at that article to learn a little bit more about ACCE. Okay, as I mentioned, we are going to have presentations from our various committee chairs, and the first is Alir Kaluli, who is the chair of the Education Committee, but is also the vice president for the American College of Clinical Engineering. And with that, Alir, I'm going to go to your slide, and you can take it away.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody, for attending this webinar. It's a great time to be a clinical engineer, as Jim said, and there is no better time to be an ACCE member. We are in the Education Committee. We are heavily involved. We continue to support the ACCE in the promotion, education, and information exchange in the profession of clinical engineering by doing the following. We're organizing the teleconference series. We're actually finishing the teleconference series for this year. We have 2 more sessions in May and then in June. And we are in the phase of planning the teleconference series for 2013 and 2014. We will have another 10 sessions for in 2013-14, and we're looking for ACCE members to actually participate in our committee to help us with the planning for the teleconference series. We're also organizing CCE Certified Clinical Engineer study classes for test takers, and I just want to point out that ACCE is the only organization that's actually offering these classes, and it's a great value for everybody that's taken the Certified Clinical Engineer test. We're also updating the CCE study guide. We found out that it was a little bit, it's been a bit of a few years since it was updated. So last year we took the initiative. We did a lot of updates to the study guide, and this year we're continuing to update it to make sure that it's up to date and it reflects the questions that are going, the subjects that will be covered in the CCE test. We finished, we had a successful symposium at AME in 2012. We organized that symposium, as well as we're currently planning the ACCE symposium for AME 2013 in Long Beach. This symposium will be on innovative and disruptive technologies and how can we prepare clinical engineers to face these new challenges. So far, we have a great lineup of speakers, and we're still planning. And I would appreciate anybody that wants to help with the symposium. Please feel free to shoot us an email and let us know that you want to be involved with the committee, and we'll be more than happy to have you in our committee. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, Alir. I really appreciate all of the activities that you've been leading through the Education Committee and the hard work of the committee that is supporting you with that. And our symposia are typically very well attended at the AME conference, and I'm hoping that this year will be another one of these sellout type programs. And that is, they're being sold out as opposed to being a sellout. So we'll leave that pun aside. Anyway, moving on to the next topic of the program, Antonio Hernandez has a very active international committee, and will be providing an overview of their activities. Take it away, Antonio.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, all of you, for attending this conference. The International Committee is a very active committee in ACCE. As one of the main activities of the college for more than 25 years has been promoting clinical engineering and health technology management worldwide. And as a result, there is a large and growing international clinical engineering group worldwide. The picture you see now is our last advanced clinical engineering workshop in Lima, Peru, last year, November 12 to 16. This workshop was led by Toby Clark, and there were also as faculty members Mario Castañeda, Tom Jod, and Ismael Cordero. And now, next slide, we will be presenting some of the International Committee activities. Next slide, please, Jim. International Committee highlights. We have a strong group working, as I say, there is a chair and 18 members that have monthly meetings. In fact, today, after this conference, we will be having our monthly meeting, and one of the outcomes of this work is already we have updated guidelines in the activities of the International Committee, and those are available to all the members in the ACCE website in the members area. Our international membership is a large group. 26% of ACCE members come from all the continents. Antarctica is the only one who is not having now, up to now, clinical engineers. We have our advanced clinical engineering workshop, the one I was presenting some pictures in Lima, Peru, November last year. For this year, 2013, we have planned one in Brazil, Florianopolis, in October, another one in Colombia, in Barranquilla, in August, and in Ecuador, in Guayaquil, in November. We also have request workshops from Costa Rica, Ghana, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Zambia. Some of these workshops are in coordination with the World Health Organization. We also have been very active attending a biomedical engineering conference in Chile, China, Colombia, and Ecuador. And Jim, our president, just came from Italy in a conference from the Italian Clinical Engineering Conference. Also, we have been involved in projects. We are implementing a biomedical training program for the Ministry of Health of Guyana in South America, and it was in collaboration with Global Links and the Pan American Health Organization. We also have memberships and work in partnership with other organizations. Mainly, we are now linked to the IFMBE, and all ACCE members have access to the IFMBE benefits, including the Spring Journal, proceedings, discounts, fees to the different activities. Also, we are very active with the Clinical Engineering Certification, with the Health Technology Certification Commission. We work in close collaboration with the World Health Organization, with the Pan American Health Organization, and the Health Technology Foundation. We also are very active in the global communication. ACCE is the administrator of the Infratech. Infratech is an international lead-serve group hosted by PAHO and owned by the World Health Organization. And since 1999, when it was created, ACCE has been coordinating this forum, and now we are in a process of transition to the new WHO communication platform, and we are or will be playing a key role not only in the transition but in the future of this platform. We are also in a process to update the Advanced Clinical Engineering Workshop volunteer faculty roster. So if any one of you are interested in being a faculty member in the international workshops, please contact us. And we keep promoting and advocating for the clinical engineering. We are growing our membership outside the United States, and it's an ongoing program to enroll students, professionals, organizations, and institutions. Thank you, and back to you, Jim.
Thank you very much, Antonio. I'm glad that you mentioned the presentation that I just finished with the Italian Clinical Engineering Association meeting, and that was an extremely well-attended meeting. There were, I think, on the order of 250 attendees in Naples, Italy, and the theme of the conference was similar to the themes of what we've been talking about a lot in the United States, which is the convergence of medical devices and information technology. And it was clear to me that in Italy and just like in other parts of the world, we're dealing with a lot of the same issues. The next committee chair that I would like to invite to present is Jim Weir, who is the head of the membership committee and has done a really nice job in streamlining some of the processes involved with signing up for ACCE membership and firming up the status of the different membership categories and other things. So I'll let Jim do the talking from here.
Okay, thank you, Jim. And I also appreciate all the people that are online. I see we've got about 40 some odd online. That's about 10% of our membership, which is pretty good, I think, for a first shot at this. The membership committee has been very active in the past 2 or 3 years as we've done some things to streamline the program. We also have added institutional and corporate memberships, which has increased our membership considerably. In fact, I guess one of our memberships is the VA, which makes up, looks like about a third of our membership nowadays, which I appreciate since that's where I originally worked and retired from. One of the areas that you look at, types of memberships, the fellows, we need more people who are qualified for fellow to make application. This requires completing an extensive application. You got to have a minimum number of points in certain categories, one of which is being active in the organization. I'm sure there are several people out there that would qualify for this, but probably like I was, they just really didn't take the time to fill out the form. But, you know, we really need that. We only have 13 fellows, and there are certain areas that we need fellows in order to recommend other people for fellows and to recommend people to being advanced to emeritus status. So any of you that need to look at that and has been around for a long time, we would like to see some application. I think in the last 2 or 3 years, I think we've only had 1, maybe 2 applications for fellows. We've streamlined the membership process considerably. We no longer require a CV for anybody applying for associate member. They just need to indicate that they are supporting the field on their application, which means they got one little box on there. We got to be sure they check that box. Anyone that has a CCE does not need to submit a CV for individual membership, since the requirements for the two are really very similar. Of course, our membership dues have recently increased. However, we've reduced the dues for international members depending on the income of their country, which is based on World Bank data. We also have reduced the dues to 1/2 for fully retired members. We've had a hassle about what is fully retired. I think, you know, realistically, none of us probably fully retire from the field. We at least maintain activity and interest in the field. There are a lot of benefits to being a member of ACCE. You can look at our brochure, which is up on the web, which has about a significant number, but a few things to highlight. It offers networking with people in the field, either at meetings or by activities like this, educational activities, various email activities. We also have discounted registration for major conferences such as AME, HIMSS, and IFMBE conferences. There's discounted registration rate for ACCE educational programs, discount for the Journal of Clinical Engineering. And, of course, you can also get the ACCE newsletter, which comes out 6 times a year, which has information about what people in the field are doing as well as hot topics. I have a very good committee, I think. I have myself and 4 members, Hussein Ali, Forrest Fox, Robert Mulliken, and Kevin Taylor, which gives me kind of a distribution of people, with someone from Canada, someone in the university thing, and a couple of people in the hospital field. And so we take a real serious looking at membership applications and try to process them as quickly as possible. So if there's any people out there that are listening that are not members, we would appreciate getting an application from you. That's all, Jim. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Jim. And as I said at the beginning of your piece, I really appreciate the effort of you and your committee, and in particular, how you've streamlined the application process just to make it a lot easier for someone, especially an associate member, to join our organization. And wrapping up the committee summaries is Tom Judd. And Tom, I think, must have been a cheerleader in another life because he serves the advocacy committee lead very well in doing a nice job of looking for different ways to promote the organization, and that's through initiatives like promotions and marketing materials to making good connections with outside organizations for the kind of collaboration that I was talking about. So, Tom, here's your slide, and you're up to deck, or you're on up to bat.
Thanks, Jim. As one of the old gray guys, I like hanging around the folks on this call, and all of our input's valuable. So certainly we're more, the advocacy committee, about a dozen of us are more than about the awards, but that's always a cool thing that gets to happen. And of course, we began to hand them out at the HIMSS reception, and hopefully we'll complete that well on June 2nd there at the Long Beach reception. So check out the website for those award winners and hear their stories, and it could be you someday. It is a great time to be a clinical engineer and an ACC member. A lot of these documents I'm going to mention here quickly are the things we hand out at the ACC booth at HIMSS or AME. We will make them website downloads so that you can have them for whatever activities you might obviously of an advocacy nature. But one of them is, can you afford not to take action? I mean, Mario started this cool two-page thing, and Jim has continued it well, where we tell our story quickly, the elevator speech, 2 pages, neat pictures. There's a CEIT brochure. Obviously, you know, the clinical engineering field, as Jim has said, is historical lifecycle management, HTM role, but now this emerging CEIT role, it's pretty well emerged. But there's a brochure about CEIT and how ACC defines that I think is very helpful, and it was written by some really smart people. I won't mention their names, Ray Zambuto and Zee Grimes. Mm-hmm. So just in terms of specific activities, we did meet at HIMSS. We, ACC, some of the leadership, with Veterans Administration, clinical engineers, obviously our largest institutional member. And I tell you this quick story about that because it's, you know, the kind of conversation we had with them is the kind of conversation we really want to have with all of ACC membership and potential membership. Is we're doing some good things, no question about it. We're telling you some of those stories today. But how can we help you more? I mean, how, you know, this is 2013. We got all this, you know, communication skills and social media and all that. How can we help each other, you know, serve the profession and each other more? So that was the kind of conversation we had with them. There were specifics on that. I'd be happy to answer questions about that if we bring it up a little later. So I mentioned the whole CEIT, the, you know, putting medical device information into electronic health records, and that's how that's driving workflows and healthcare in many different ways. How do we leverage this specific and special expertise we have in that area? And we do it through a variety of ways. Of course, our member presentations at the big meetings, through our publications. Another way is, as Jim mentioned a little earlier, is we've started dialogue with, at HIMSS actually officially with CHIME, which you recognize as the CIO, professional society in the U.S. that's very active. I mean, as the meaningful use legislation and the changes in phase 1, 2, and 3 and all that came down, they're giving feedback on how this is actually able to be done in the real world, and to give feedback on that. We really want to come alongside them on, you know, policy about things like that. You know, we don't have something to say about everything going on, but we all know in phase 3 of meaningful use, for example, the requirements sort of step up the need for medical device integration into the EHRs, and so I think we're going to have an increasing voice in that. There was actually a kind of a cool article that came out at a good time by 2 CHIME board members in February, it was in BIT, about how at the local level, CEIT, this is written by CIOs, and in some ways they were lovingly and diplomatically saying, hey, clinical engineers, come alongside of us at individual hospitals and healthcare systems, help us work on that relationship between CEIT to, you know, so that integration happens better and so on. So it's not only, you know, this kind of dialogue with this kind of organization. Many of you are involved with other things around interoperability and wireless standards and so on. So it's a cool time to be a clinical engineer and to be involved in professional activities and, you know, to get your voice heard. Jim?
Thank you very much, Tom, and I definitely appreciate the setting up of the conversations with the Chime folks, and we're looking forward to that turning into a fruitful relationship. And the one thing that I remember hearing from the Chime discussions that really hit home is they felt that the Chime member, the CIO type executive, really could use some support from an organization like ACCE in helping to figure out how to deal with policy related to medical technology and as it interrelates with information systems. So the next part of the program is what we're calling member commentary. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, Ray Zambuto and Megan Friel will be providing their perspectives. Ray is a long-time and I think founding member of ACCE. You can confirm that, Ray, once you're online, if I'm not misspeaking. But we asked Ray and Megan to provide perspectives on what they think about ACCE and what it means to the clinical engineering community, and then touch a little bit about, you know, their own personal perspectives. So the first up on this section is Ray, and you can take it away.
Thank you, Jim. First off, I want to thank you for the invitation to not only provide perspective, but be the kickoff on this process. Just to give you a little bit of background, historically, I've been in the clinical engineering profession for about 45 years. Over that time, I've worked in industry. I've worked for a major medical center, Mass General, operated a shared service, but most of my time was spent running technology and medicine and ISO, primarily in the Northeast. I joined ACCE in 1997, so I was not a charter member. And I will address that a little bit later on. And I was the president from 2002 to 2004. It's a good time to be a clinical engineer, yes. It's a good time to be a member of ACCE, yes. But it's always been a good time to be a clinical engineer and a member of ACCE. The impact of ACCE over the last 16 years in particular cannot be understated. This is truly a great organization. You know, Antonio has talked about the continuing ACEWs. That was going strong when I joined in '97, and we have provided education to hundreds upon hundreds of people internationally. Certification. When the ICCE stopped certifying clinical engineers back in 1996-7, it was ACCE and particularly Frank Painter who led the charge to bring certification back and give light to the idea that clinical engineering was done and that there was not enough people to be certified to make it worthwhile. And today we have a very robust certification process in place. In terms of recognizing clinical engineers, the advocacy awards that we have, the Morris Award. I was privileged to know Bob Morris during his time as president of ACCE, and you know, a finer individual in our profession has not walked the earth. The Clinical Engineering IT Synergy Award bridges clinical engineering and IT, being jointly given by HIMSS and ACCE. Steve Grimes was instrumental in getting that award brought into reality. So there are a lot of ways in which ACCE has had an impact for us and on behalf of the profession. You know, in terms of clinical engineering and IT, yes, it would have happened, but it would have happened on a hospital-by-hospital basis. There was, back in the early 2000s, literally nothing going on in terms of talks between clinical engineering and IT at a professional level. ACCE went to HIMSS and got the ball rolling. We began the CEIT Symposium presented at HIMSS every year now. We began having breakfasts to have the IT folks come to understand a little bit about what clinical engineering was all about. We organized ACCE organized a special interest group within HIMSS, which became the CEIT community. And so there are a tremendous amount of ways in which ACCE has, through the years, been the champion for clinical engineering and the place to be. I won't even go into the IHE and PCD, the work that Todd Cooper and Elliot Sloan and Manny First and Steve Merritt have produced in bringing clinical engineering and medical devices into the IT mainstream. Where are we headed as a profession? Well, we're number 4 in the CNN Money Top 100 Jobs, and 54, and that is a fantastic recognition. We go everywhere in the hospital. We interact with everyone. We have had traditional areas of expertise supporting the clinical technology, providing assistance and leadership in many cases in the areas of patient safety. Now we're looking at the clinical engineering IT area, which we are embracing as a profession. Every one of us has a comfort zone. Some of us are more comfortable in the IT side. Some of us are more comfortable in the patient safety area. All of these are in our future, but we can't just stay in our comfort zones. The key to improving care means that we have to continue to work together, organizationally, for ACCE to work with AMI and HIMSS and ASHE, to work individually within our institutions, with IT, with administration, with facilities. The future is going to also include, as Jim mentioned earlier, moving into systems engineering, clinical systems engineering, that Rick Schrenker and Steve Grimes, the system of systems concepts. These are things that, from a technical point of view, clinical engineering will be involved with, but also looking at systems approaches within the greater area of how do we make healthcare better, how do we improve the delivery of care, reduce waste. These are areas in which we can work with, learn from, and provide input to the systems engineering community. There's a brief article in the current AMI News submitted by Jim Piepenbrick up here in Boston, who talked about the role that his department played after the marathon bombings here in Boston. And that's kind of where it's at. We can't just sit back. As Jim said earlier, over the course of my time within the industry, I've worked with a lot of hospitals, a lot of clinical engineers within our own organization at Technology and Medicine, and I found that the success of a given program is directly related to how engaged the individual clinical engineer on site, whether they're in-house or whether they're under contract, gets with the whole hospital. ACCE is not just another society. I probably could have been a charter member, but I looked at it as just another society then. I was dragged almost kicking and screaming into ACCE by Frank Painter and Steve Grimes. But once in, and I saw what ACCE's potential is to provide for my needs and for me to support the profession, I could see the differences. And so I encourage you all to pay it forward, continue to be active, and encourage clinical engineers that you know that are not members to join ACCE and become active. It's your ACCE. It is a great time to be a clinical engineer and a great time to be a part of ACCE. Back to you, Jim.
Thank you very much, Ray. You're very inspiring, and thanks for straightening that out about your membership time. But I suspect we would have been even a better organization if you had been involved from the very beginning. So I'm very glad that you did join up when you came on board. And I'll mention that my first opportunity to serve on ACCE's board was when you were president of ACCE, and I was always impressed at how good a job that you did, and you're one of the people that I'm sort of using as a model in trying to benchmark my role as president. So thanks.
Thank you, Jim.
And wrapping up the presentation part of it is Megan Friel, who, as you heard from Jim Weir earlier, well, Megan is with the VA, and as you heard from Jim Weir, the VA is a large portion of the ACCE's membership, and we really appreciate that from the Veterans Health Administration. And Megan's going to talk about some of that point of view in terms of how we work collaboratively together with ACCE and the VA, and what it means to her organization and her from her personal perspective. Thanks, Megan.
Not a problem. Good afternoon. As Jim just mentioned, my name is Megan Friel, and I work in our Healthcare Technology Management Program Office within the VA. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes to share some thoughts on my experience as a newer member of ACCE. So to start, I've been continually impressed with the rich community of our biomedical or clinical engineering professionals within this organization. Because there is such a tight network of clinical engineers, I found that there's a great opportunity for us to network and learn from one another, and all of the many experiences that are similar but do vary slightly, and we were able to learn from each other within these different healthcare organizations that are represented. There's also a number of tools and resources that the American College of Clinical Engineering offers, which I found very useful over the years. And actually, as I was first interested in pursuing my master's degree in clinical engineering, the ACCE website was one of the ones that popped up as I did research on this profession. So I see this as a great tool and a great marketing piece to our profession. The newsletters and learning about the different committees and outreach opportunities in the profession, reading that on the website and so forth really made me realize how passionate folks were about this field and how we could impact patient care. And that helped really make my decision in moving forward within this profession. So I really am grateful for that. So there's, as we've kind of heard, there's a great opportunity to contribute to our profession through this network, the educational teleconference series held monthly, promoting certification in the profession, and the various committees that we just heard about are great ways to give back. And to me, one of the most important ways to give back is really in educating folks about what we do so that we can continue to sit at that leadership table within our hospitals or organizations and really become or remain kind of the leaders that Jim just talked about earlier in the presentation. I also think that marketing this profession not only to the leadership in the hospitals but also to the schools, both at college and university levels and even within our middle school and high school levels, will go a long way in helping us continue to move our profession forward, and for us to learn from each other and others as well. So just real quick, finally, as I've only been an official member for probably the past few years. I've spent the past 9 years of my career with DA watching and participating in ACCE activities, and it's really been great to see the organization change and grow and kind of adapt to what's been put in front of us over that time. So I really do look forward to continuing to engage with my peers on the phone and others that are out there in making this profession even better, wherever that may take us to the future. So thank you for this opportunity, Jim, and I'll hand it back to you for wrap up.
Thank you very much, Megan, for those comments, and especially for the support that you and the Veterans Health Administration provide to ACCE. Just in wrapping up before we get to the Q&A part of the program, I'll mention that we have a survey out on the web for the members. We routinely look for feedback from ACCE members to get ideas for what kinds of projects that we should be working on, how things are working for them with the newsletter. We have an initiative that we're trying to firm up for regarding the web site, but we would like some feedback on that and a lot of other things. So you can click on the link for that survey to when you get a chance to fill that out. And by the way, this presentation will be available on ACCE's website. So we're at the Q&A part of the program, and we thought we would use this session for a variety of things, but in particular we wanted to hear from the membership on things like, do you think this is a good idea to do a membership webinar? Do you have ideas for how we can get more participation in this program? I didn't have a real good feel for how many people would be attending. Jim Weir pointed out that we have, roughly 10% of the membership. I think it's a little bit less than that, but that's maybe about that percentage of the U.S. Membership. Clearly, we want to see the membership grow. We'd like to see there to be growth in the number of participants in programs like this. The idea was to have a way to engage more with the membership through this webinar than we can do just with the receptions at the AME conference and the HIMSS conference. So real quickly, you saw this pop up a couple of times throughout the program, and I'd like just to get a quick response from the attendees as to whether or not you're a member of the ACCE or not, or if you don't know. And so if you could just quickly fill in the response to that. And we're opening the poll now. So the poll is open. So I'm actually going to vote because I know that I am a member of ACCE. So there we go. And clearly most of the people online are members, and we'll leave that open for a moment. While that's going on, I'll explain to you how you can ask a question, and it's pretty simple. You just go up to the Q&A part of the live meeting site, and you enter your question. And we actually have a couple of questions on the site now. So while people are responding to the polling question, we'll get to the first questions. And the first one that I saw, which actually went away but is a relevant question, was asking about ways that individuals who don't necessarily qualify for the Certified Clinical Engineering certification, are there ways that they can have a certification that would be similar to that, or would the CCE open up to individuals that don't have, for example, the engineering qualifications that are required? And I'll mention that there is an active effort actually through AME, which ACCE is fully supporting, and Paul Sherman, who is president-elect of American College of Clinical Engineering and past president of the Certification Commission, is involved with is to look at a healthcare technology management certification that is hopefully going to be synergistic with the CE or the Certified Clinical Engineering certification. Paul, are you still out there?
Yes, I am.
Would you be able to comment a bit on that?
Sure. Yeah, the Healthcare Technology Certification Commission is working with ACCE. We've both had been looking at some kind of certification for, the technicians and folks that have been running departments, to a management certification, and realize that, we could help each other out, and really thought it was best we could all cooperate and push this together. And so we will be working together on creating a healthcare technology manager certification program.
Okay, thanks.
Not sure how soon that's coming out. The work is just getting started on it. Back to you, Jim.
Jim, are you muted?
Thank you, Alir, for correcting me. I was muted. So we'll start over again. Anyway, I'm getting back to the questions, and one of the comments was that this was a good way to engage with the membership for those in particular who are not able to attend the AME conference and to attend the HIMSS conference. So another comment is congratulations. It's great to listen to my friends from Chile. Thank you very much. So we appreciate having participation all the way from Chile. Another question to Ray Zambuto. More and more OEMs are closing the door to HTM professionals by not sharing service manuals, not selling parts, and having close service models. Can you envision ACCE working to fight or reverse this trend, and how can we change this trend on the part of the OEMs? I'll ask Ray to address that, and it was specifically directed towards you, and I think others might be interested in chime in on that.
Yeah, this is not, it's not a new problem, but it's a continually evolving problem of the OEMs not sharing service manuals, not selling parts. There's been some notable activity by some of the larger OEMs over the course of the last year or so. I think that the opposition to that probably needs to come from the independent service organization community, since any kind of real action that's going to impact here comes under restraint of trade. And while ACCE can weigh in as a friend of the court, so to speak, the true action has to be brought within the servicing community itself. Now, will a hospital or a group of hospitals, possibly under common ownership, to have a lot of clout, or some of the major medical centers want to take up the fight? It's questionable. Unfortunately, it's questionable, because in many cases legally they want to not make the waves on this. But in truth, I don't think it's ACCE's position to do the challenging, other than to work as a friend of court, whether it's to try and engage some of the regulatory groups or certification groups in this. But I think if it's going to be fought, the battle has to be fought by the competitors of these, just as within, for example, the auto industry in Massachusetts, they have gotten past a Right to Repair Act, which requires the major auto producers to share their high-tech information with the independent service operations.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. And I know this is a small piece of it, but ACCE and ECRI, where I work, have always advocated building requirements, for example, for things like service manuals into your upfront documentation and negotiations, because it's almost impossible to get that kind of information from a manufacturer once the contract is signed if you haven't already asked for it. We actually hit the top of the hour, and I'm going to just take one more question, and then we would like to hear from participants of this program just through the ACCE board email address for ideas on how we could improve on this type of webinar. But I feel strongly about it in that it's a good way to connect with our membership, and we'll clearly have the recording available for people who did not get a chance to attend. But the last question is, can you comment on the status of the certification board of HTF? So most of you probably know that the Healthcare Technology Foundation is the overseer of the certification program, and the Healthcare Technology Foundation has determined that it's not an appropriate thing for the foundation to be doing, that is to be running a certification program. And it's similar to a change that took place with AMI and its CVET certification, I believe it is, under AMI's foundation. And AMI, a couple of years ago, shifted its certification into the main part of AMI as opposed to under its foundation. So I'm not going to get into some of the details about that, but the foundation is actively looking to identify a new lead organization for the certification program, and hosted a stakeholder meeting yesterday as the initial part of that effort. And ACCE participated in that along with AMI and ASHE and a number of other interested parties. And it's expected that a new home for the certification program will be identified by the end of the year. And ACCE is interested in hearing from the membership, ACCE's membership, about whether or not you feel this would be an appropriate thing for ACCE to take on. It's a lot of responsibility. It's more management and overhead than we currently have in our small volunteer organization, but it's a fairly well-supported and maintained program, and it's been growing. So if you have any feedback or input on that, we'd appreciate hearing that. So with that, I'm going to wrap up the program. I'd like to thank everybody for participating. I'd like to thank the attendees for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedules to do that. I'd really like to thank the presenters, the board members, and the committee chairs for presenting, and for Ray and Megan for your participation in this program. And then the other thing that I'll just ask everyone to do is please encourage your colleagues that you know from ACCE or just in the clinical engineering community to listen in on this program. And we hope to have this posted on the ACCE website within the next, week or so. And we'll send a notice out to the membership when that's available. So feel free to talk this up. And with that, I'm going to be ending the recording. And thanks, everyone, and have a nice day.